In 1776, an American colonist could walk into a Boston market and buy a pound of coffee for about 13 cents. A ton of raw iron went for roughly $63. When the American Revolutionary War broke out, the Continental Congress needed a vast amount of purchasing power they simply didn't have. To fund the military, they authorized the printing of their own paper money, known as Continental currency. Congress aggressively expanded the money supply, issuing over $240 million in paper bills. By 1780, this rapid printing caused the currency to collapse, retaining only 1/40th of its original face value. This early economic trauma taught the new nation a harsh lesson. As Benjamin Franklin noted, the rapid depreciation of the unbacked currency had, in effect, acted as a tax to pay for the war, quietly draining purchasing power away from citizens. To restore public trust after the collapse of the Continental, the Washington administration passed the Coinage Act of 1792. They tagged the new U.S. dollar to a fixed physical weight of gold and silver. By ensuring a dollar represented a tangible piece of metal, the government created a century of relative price stability. Inflation was largely kept in check by the physical scarcity of the gold itself. But while the currency held its value, manufactured goods remained incredibly expensive. Everything from clothing to agricultural tools had to be crafted by hand, entirely limited by the slow, grueling pace of physical human labor. Under a strict gold standard, a citizen's wealth is highly secure from sudden devaluation. Yet, without a way to produce goods faster, their standard of living is capped by how much a person can physically make in a day. At the start of the 20th century, the factory assembly line broke that labor bottleneck. For the first time, production speed was detached from manual human limitations. Consider the buggy whip economy. In the 1920s, purchasing a working horse cost between $100 and $200, and maintaining it required daily feeding, grooming, and sheltering. Contrast that with the Ford Model T. Because of automated mass production, a brand new touring car dropped from $850 in 1909 down to just $260 by 1925. When a stable, gold-backed currency intersects with automated manufacturing, the average consumer experiences a massive expansion in purchasing power. Suddenly, yesterday's expensive luxuries become today's affordable standard. Following World War II, a strong middle class emerged. Armed with high wages, they were surrounded by an expanding variety of packaged products that were continually dropping in price. In 1968, American wage power hit a historical peak. When adjusted for today's prices, the federal minimum wage reached $10.69 an hour, its highest real value in history. This was a brief, highly balanced window. Workers enjoyed stable money and cheap goods right before global pressures would destabilize the entire system. Facing immense pressure on gold reserves in 1971, President Richard Nixon unilaterally ordered the cancellation of the dollar's direct convertibility to gold. The U.S. dollar transitioned into a global fiat currency. Without the gold anchor, and combined with severe global oil supply shocks, the 1970s suffered a massive inflationary crisis. The cost of petroleum skyrocketed, pushing overall inflation to 15% by 1980. The landscape became so confusing that in 1986, The Economist introduced the Big Mac Index. By comparing the cost of a single McDonald's hamburger worldwide, economists created a tool to measure purchasing power parity across a chaotic array of fluctuating, unbacked currencies. Decoupling the dollar from physical gold rewrote the rules of the American wallet. Purchasing power was suddenly exposed to international volatility and central banking policies. As global supply chains expanded over the following decades, the cost to mass-produce technology plummeted. Gadgets advanced exponentially in quality while continually dropping in price. But finite, physical assets completely detached from median income growth. Suburban real estate relies on land, which cannot be mass-produced in a factory or shipped overseas. Higher education followed a similar trajectory. Since 1978, U.S. college tuition costs have soared by 1,225%. This animated chart shows the divergence since 1971. The downward line represents manufactured technology, while the sharply upward line tracks housing and tuition. In a fiat system, inflation impacts assets unequally. Mass-produced widgets stay cheap, But finite assets absorb the expanding money supply, driving prices relentlessly higher. 2.5 centuries after the continental currency, the American economy has inverted. The cost to acquire basic daily calories and consumer technology is historically cheap, but the cost to acquire the scarce assets actually required to build wealth has never been higher.